because, yeah, I mean, there's collector parsing, which I would like to teach you guys, but I don't have an example yet. There's quite a number of things that we can do in here, even before getting into before actually getting into raw Python. So if we wanted to, we could just start using Python in here and NetBrain will accept it. But it's really not necessary. So there's that. But if you do if you do know Python and get into using Python with this, it's just standard regex, no secret sauce. All right. So with that, we're going to talk a little bit for the remainder of the class. We're going to talk a little bit about the DIR framework, as it's called, the Data View Intent Runbook framework. But mostly I'm going to babble for a bit about some theory around making runbook templates. Question, Willem?
Matthew, I have a question.
Please.
This is everything is about getting data out of systems, so you can parse your files or your tables or whatever. Mm-hmm. But is there also now an opportunity, because it's reading out? Is there also a possibility within NetBrain also to push configuration, so to create changes up front and to push that to the devices?
If you have the optional change management module, you can create, approve, verify, and execute CLI change scripts. And that is covered in fairly full depth in NetBrain 204, which actually we're having this afternoon. And even though you haven't been to 202 and 203 yet, you can just come to 204, honestly. Join me this afternoon. There's that. So it's only for CLI. It's, at least for the moment, doesn't do reactive changes or anything, but I believe that's coming in the next update, some measure of reactive changes. Exactly what form that's going to take, I don't know, and I'm really excited to find out.
All right, thanks.
All right. But yeah, primarily, aside from that, primarily NetBrain is a read-only platform, just to be clear. All right. So the DIR thing, this refers to what we see in the sidebar when we're looking at a dynamic map. So if I open this from yesterday, for example, or Tuesday, I should say, you see data view, intent, runbook. And so remember that as we're designing stuff for our users, the dynamic map is both our input medium and our where the output is displayed. So we're going to be designing network intents to check specific things on specific devices, remember? And then we're going to be designing data view templates to pull sets of data and then overlay them on the map. So remember, as a data view, overlaying data on the map itself automatically puts that data into context. So it's a fantastic way to just aid comprehension, not just the quality of comprehension, but simply the speed of comprehension is greatly aided by using it as a data view. So just to have users be able to view their network information of whatever sort this way, and you create different data sets for different purposes, is quite valuable. Now the runbook itself is where things are executed and where the results are stored. So that's really the centerpiece of a user's work in the dynamic map. They're going to be pulling almost all their data through a runbook. That's where the results are being stored. So we already talked about data views and data view templates. We're going to learn how to make a very simple data view template in NetBrain 202. And then if anyone wants the full chapter and verse on how to build a data view template or a QApp for that matter, there is a actually 3-hour-long Zoom recording that is available. Just let me know and I can forward that to you. Anyone who requests the recording for NetBrain 202, I tend to send the QApp recording and the DVT recording to them as well, in case they want it. And just as a reminder, there's a number of built-in data view templates and other resources, including one that is so popular we gave it its own type of runbook step, and that's the overall health data view, and it's looking at the top symptoms of network slowness, i.e. CPU memory and bandwidth utilization information. And I believe it's getting that information via SNMP or, if necessary, via RESTful API. So this is a basic heat map, essentially, and see if anything's melting down. So at least half the time, this will at least tell you where to start looking. So it's not just for if things are slow. It's always a good place to start. If you're really not sure specifically where you want to start looking, you can do a lot worse than mapping the affected area of a network for whatever problem and running the overall health view to get you started. And at least half the time, it'll point you in the right direction to start with. So remember, network intents, we'll get much more into this in NetBrain 202, but remember, network intents are tiny pieces of automation that are meant to check specific aspects of configuration on specific devices. So and when I say configuration, I mean either the actual config file or CLI show commands. And they have two broad uses. One is to make sure that the design intent of the network is being respected and that it's not drifting. So hence the term network intent. So this would be to make sure that things, a particular aspect of configuration on a particular device is still the way it's supposed to be. And then secondly, would be to check for known symptoms of a specific problem on a particular device. Usually these point at a single device, although they can point to multiples if need be. And then whenever they're executed, these diagnoses that we define will be run. And as part of each diagnosis, we're defining, okay, we're defining a condition essentially. And if that condition is true, is that good or is that bad? So we're essentially boiling this down to red flag, red light, green light. And then these can be executed on demand. But the most popular way to use these is through preventive automation, to have them run on a timer. And as we recall in NetBrain 101, the PA dashboard will give us a nice summary of any issues or config drifts or whatever that have been found as we go along. So, for Chris and anyone else, if you would like a copy of this class's recording or any class recording, including the QApp recording, just email what you want to, because I mean, if you request it now, I'm not going to remember, honestly, and it's the messages in the chat log are not associated with your email address. So just email, and I'll put in this in the chat for everyone, education@netbraintech.com, and just say what you want. And every Friday, I sit down and I send around the requests for the week. All right, so we already know how to use network intents, I think, from NetBrain 101, so I'm going to skip over that. Okay, so what I really want to talk about today, since we have some time, I'll try to be brief because we only got about 15 minutes and I don't want to run over the bottom of the hour, but I do want to talk about creating runbook templates. So a runbook template, so if a runbook is a procedure that's embedded within a dynamic map, a runbook template is a predefined procedure that we load in and then follow. So this is the equivalent, the direct equivalent in NetBrain of loading up a PDF or opening a page in a binder and then following a step 1, step 2, step 3 process. And these can be everything from very simple linear procedures of just pulling CLI show commands and looking at the results to very complex procedures that are all built into adaptive automation and have decision branches and so forth. So essentially what we would traditionally have is, as I said, a PDF or a written procedure or just knowledge in our head. We're going to now, in a NetBrain powered world, we're going to turn these into runbook templates so that not only can we execute them much more easily and much more quickly, but also that we can turn this over to everybody in our team, and even people who don't necessarily really know what they're doing per se can hit the buttons that we've defined in our adaptive automation, follow the procedure, and do very complex troubleshooting well above what they can do prima facie, and they can do it really, really well because NetBrain's doing all the heavy lifting for them. And in C-suite terms, this allows us to shift workload to the left. In other words, we can empower our less experienced colleagues or our colleagues who maybe have a different expertise than we do. We can essentially pass our particular expertise around to the entire team. And so if we happen to be on vacation, nothing's going to melt down because we're not there, because if hopefully we've left a procedure as to how to fix the thing. And so there's that.